entrepreneurs, business owners, and even some of my ministry leaders. I got a question for you. Are you trying to figure out why is it that some businesses and ministries are succeeding, but a significant amount are still failing? Well, that's a great question, and I'm going to help drill down on 3 more reasons why some businesses succeed while others are failing. What's going on, everybody? Glenn P. Brooks Jr. here, back for another edition of Bootstrapping Business and Ministry. And I'm looking around because in the area of the country that I live in, particularly here in what we call Hampton Roads, the Virginia Beach area, people are just growing and they're going. Businesses are moving, ministries are thriving, some of them. But then at the same regard, or in the same token, there's so many that are just not doing well. As I sit in these hot summer months and I think about, all these businesses that are thriving in COVID, and then you have businesses that are closing because of COVID and other things, I'm going to lean into 3 more reasons as to why that is the case. And I'll be very honest with you, more of it has to do with us than any other outside influences. So just to give you a quick background, before we get into the 3 more reasons why some businesses fail while others are succeeding, I want you to understand that as an entrepreneur who's only been doing this for 5 years, I consider us a baby in this industry of business. I am a person who did not want to become an entrepreneur, quite frankly. Many of you guys know my story. Part 1 of this session we did last episode, and we talked a little bit as to why that was. Quite frankly, guys, I had a huge fear of being held completely responsible for every single thing. It wasn't until I leaned into the idea of building a team and putting people around me, people who were more skilled than I was, people who got it in different ways that I did, that I really began to see my way 5 years ago as to how we could succeed. Now, to be very honest, we're not out of the woods yet. I'm constantly thinking that most businesses are failing within the first 10 years. And I got another startling statistic for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. And I'm hoping that this would help you. Did you know that according to small business trends, only 40% of small businesses are actually profitable, 30% break even, and 30% are actually losing money? Which brings me to this. Number 1 reason why people are not able to sustain nor grow their business is a lack of profit. A lack of profit. I want you to put that down in the chat. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes people think that as long as I'm making money, I'm fine. And that's a logical thought up until the point that where you begin to look at what kind of expenses do you have. And so when we're talking about profitability, guys, what we're really talking about is, does your revenue exceed your expense? Now, I know that sounds like a simple math equation, but if you are a flamingo temperament, for my DISC assessment people, high I, right? Like me, you don't think details. You don't think that there are all kinds of hidden expenses in order to make certain projects or certain things really take off. Oftentimes, even as we are growing our businesses, we're really not focusing nor paying attention to the minute details of what did it cost to actually produce that product. I think about an event that we used to do when I was in ministry years ago. It was a comedy event, right? And there were several components that went into making that work. Booking talent was just one of them. What about turning on the lights? What about supplying the bathrooms with bathroom supplies for hundreds of people to come through the building? If no one is tallying up those expenses, here's what you're going to have. You're going to have a person like me who's super excited that, we broke our sales records. We generated more revenue than we ever had before. But here's the problem. If we go back and we tally up the expenses, what you most often find out is that we did not profit. And so I need you more, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in a second. I'm going to actually give you a bonus if you hang around for a little bit longer. But a lot of people are caught up on the revenue that they generate versus the profit that they make. Number 2, another reason for why businesses are some growing and some not, some staying in business and some going out of business, is poor financial management. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. There comes a time in every business where you need to stop doing everything by yourself. Here's what I can promise you. If you are not a great numbers person, if you are not a person that loves sitting in a dark room somewhere, punching buttons and really producing figures and that kind of stuff, you better hire that out. And I can tell you right now, I am grateful that in our particular case, in our business model, that person who loves to sit down and map that stuff out happens to be my wife. She's my partner, my business partner, right? She's also the COO of our company. But the truth of the matter is, if that wasn't her skill set and both of us really stunk at that, we would hire that service out. And quite frankly, it's getting to the place to where our business is scaling at such a rate that we're getting ready to hire a bunch of people that handle things way outside of the scope of just crunching numbers. Because at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're hiring the right people that can keep you on track, particularly when it comes to managing your finances. The last one that I'm going to talk about today is really, really difficult for most entrepreneurs, quite frankly, is because they inherently don't do this well. And that is, again, we're talking about the three more reasons why people are not able to grow their business, is simply a lack of focus. A lot of times, because most people have a broad strategy when it comes to starting an organization. That I know I did. It was, we're going to do all of these things, right? And we're going to do all of these things well. Here's what I know about most entrepreneurs. Most of us think bigger than what we can create, and most of us take more time pulling something off than we ever imagined. And the last thing is, in most cases, it costs more money than we ever calculated. And why am I saying this? Because if you cannot focus long enough to become super wildly, masterfully successful at one thing, it often will not only not give birth to another thing, but it actually will birth the death of something. Why am I saying that? I learned a long time ago that when I leaned into my one thing, the one thing such by doing that made everything either easier or unnecessary, it absolutely changed the game. Now, I said I was only going to give you three. I've done that already. We've talked about a lack of profit, right? Poor financial management, right? And a lack of focus. I want to give you a bonus. And this is something that I've seen both brick and mortar and digital platforms do way too often. And I want you to put this in the chat. The fourth reason, a bonus reason, is premature scaling. I want you to write that down somewhere. Growing too fast, too quickly. In other words, when I say scale, I'll give it to you this way. I know a guy back years ago when I lived in the Atlanta metropolitan area. He owned a store. The store was wildly successful based upon a model that he did in Maryland. He moved to Atlanta. He brought that model, that business model, to a retail store outlet. It was a mall, and they were doing extraordinarily well. One of the things that he did very quickly was he scaled that business, because his mindset said, well, if I'm doing this great at this particular location, what would it look like for me to put another location somewhere else? I'll work this one. My wife will work that one. We've got some star employees. We can open up another business 6 months later and open that. How many times have we seen not only retail outlets, but different organizations scale too quickly, only to find themselves extended far beyond what they can do? Here's what I've learned the hard way. Watching my friends, watching my family, watching people, quite frankly, that I was coaching grow too quickly. I've watched them fail many times because they were overextended. Does that make sense? And so now the DNA that caused you to win at this level isn't necessarily duplicated at the next location. I need y'all to hear that. There is a DNA that caused you to succeed. It's more than what you did. It's more than what your team did. There's a whole bunch of factors that went into it. Some of it could be timing. Some of it could be the amount of traffic that you had in those local areas. That if you've not paid attention to that being a part of your success, it'll cause you to believe the hype. I'll often say it this way: believe your own press clippings that you really are better than what you really are. And what you will find out is if you scale too quickly, it will often cause you to lose, because at the end of the day, you're not scaling your DNA. I have learned this. It is better for me to grow slowly and profitably right? I don't even know if that's a word. I think I just made that up. But it's better for you to grow very slow and be profitable along the way than it is for you to grow fast and then come up short when it comes to revenue. Here's what I learned, and this is something that I will continue to remember as we build our business. It takes very little money to open a business in many cases, relatively speaking, but it takes a ton of money to scale that business. So you want to make sure that you do not scale prematurely. Guys, the statistics are real. The numbers are startling. Businesses are failing at an alarming rate. And by the time you factor in something outside of your control, i.e. a pandemic, it's enough to create a disastrous outcome if you're not careful. Am I saying don't take chances? No. What I am saying is make sure they're extremely calculated and that you know that you can pull those things off, and don't be afraid to test things. I hope this has helped you. Make sure that you take a look at the descriptions below, the links in the descriptions, below. There you'll find, if you want to sign up for a free one-on-one session to find out a little bit more about who we are, what we do, why we do it, and who we do it for. Sign up for a free discovery session with our M.A.P.S Master Class. Every quarter, we take entrepreneurs through an intensive that teaches them from soup to nuts how to think differently, particularly when it comes to businesses. Listen, guys, it's not an accident that we've been able to sell almost 40,000 books since 2011. It's not an accident that we broke the six-figure mark in 2019, and if we keep this pace up, we'll break the seven-figure mark in 2021. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. It's because we took our time. And I promise you, at the end of the day, you cannot get to any place of significance by yourself. Why? Because we all need some help. Y'all be good. Hope to see y'all back on the next episode. If this content has helped you in any kind of way, want to encourage you to please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Click the link on whatever videos we have up. And at the end of the day, here's what I'm going to promise you guys. We all need some help. Y'all be good, and we'll see you soon.